For planning purposes, if any members of the committee wish to submit questions for the record after today's hearing, please do so by 5 p.m. this Thursday, December 2nd. And as usual, we'll recognize members for 5 minutes each in order of seniority at the gavel, followed by order of arrival. Because we actually have got a larger turnout than I anticipated, I'm only going to ask you one question to make sure all my colleagues get in. If there's something they don't get to, I'll get you on a second round. How do we, from your vantage point right now at ODNI, we're supposed to see some of this efforts to collaborate these economic, financial challenges and threats we face. How do we make sure we stay up with what China's doing? I cite this case where they're potentially buying into a cutting-edge semiconductor entity here in the United States, and it seems like everything we've done, that should have been red flashing lights. How do we make sure that we don't have gaps in obtaining this information, that we don't have we have the right tools in place to follow it? You know, where does Treasury, I know from a written standpoint where Treasury OIA fits in, but how do you see your role fitting in with, having had this role of coordination at ODNI? And what do we need to do to improve the product?
Sure, Senator. Thank you very much for that question. Thank you again for the opportunity to meet with you the other day. So I think I would offer a couple of points to your question. First, OIA's responsibility within the Department of the Treasury is to identify, deter, and help enable disruption of threats to the U.S. financial system. And I think that would come in a variety of different ways. That would certainly come through potential cyber attacks to the financial system, but it also comes through efforts to acquire intellectual property, to invest in U.S. companies, gain access to technological capabilities. So I think the role of the role and the responsibility of OIA in this regard is to ensure that it is providing strategic analysis to the Secretary Yellen and to other senior leadership within the government, so that they understand how we see that China is trying to adjust to our efforts to stop their access to technology through efforts like CFIUS reform. Something that I think we all well know is that China is a learning adversary, and while we may make great strides to reform how we are reviewing the foreign investments in the U.S., we should expect that they will try to continue to get around those. So certainly making sure that we have our collection and analysis, our collection analytic priorities in place, that they are in alignment with what we understand to be the priorities of the administration. But also, too, critical to that is our partnerships with our foreign partners and our private sector partners. Without those partnerships and without the understanding what private sector sees as trends in industry, it'll be hard for us to necessarily get ahead of the problem.
Well, thank you. I would simply say I was out at ODNI recently, and on this subject of China's economic efforts, and kind of asked a basic question about where, which American venture funds are investing in which of these Chinese tech companies. And these were good analysts, but they almost felt like they were just constrained from looking at American enterprise. I mean, this was a question that at a big Wall Street firm, you'd have a first-year analyst to get an answer in a matter of hours, if not days. So I do hope, with your background coming into this role, this is an area we're going to need to beef up our skills and our playing sense. And again, your question about making sure we partner with, or your comment making sure we partner with the private sector is very critical.